Hi everyone, I'm Carly Heath, the author of The Reckless Kind, coming to you from Soho Teen, Fall 2021. And I thought today I'd talk about a topic that came up when I was talking with another author about how to make complex but still lovable love interest slash friend interest characters. And the challenge is you want to make a love interest or a friend interest someone who is not completely vanilla and perfect and one-dimensional, but you also, and maybe you want to give them a little bit of an edge, but you also want to make them nice and likable. And I thought I'd kind of talk through some thoughts that randomly came into my head about the issue. And I don't know if I have any concrete solutions, but maybe I can just throw out some ideas and they might be inspiring for someone who is listening. So I first started thinking about the idea of ingredients and the timeline at which you deliver certain bits of information in a book. Like in life, you can live around someone for 365 days a year, however many hours in that year, and you can formulate an idea or impression of them and ultimately decide whether you like them or not based on hours and hours and hours of experience, as well as your own intuition. But with books, you only have about 80,000 words, and the information that you first get about a person is going to color how you perceive them throughout the rest of the book. And so that information, and throughout the book, there might be additional bits of information that are delivered, and some will be perceived by the reader as having more weight to them, and then some will be perceived as like less important. So when you're first introducing a character, and this might be a enemies to lovers situation, or it might be a situation where the character starts out disliking someone and then comes to like them and even fall in love with them during the course of the book. And I think in the case of if it's going to be like an enemies to lovers situation, there still has to be that root, that spark when they first meet that shows that this is probably going to turn around and become a lover situation. And so it might be when you first introduce the character, introduce how attractive they are, and do it via showing rather than telling. So how your main character acts around this very attractive, perhaps it's a villain character, but that have the main character really notice and experience their attractiveness. And if it is, a villain character, or if it is a character that has negative attributes, decide what those negative attributes are and be really specific about them, and maybe limit it to one or two. Because if you have a character that has 90 negative traits and only one good trait, well, it's going to make it really, really hard for the audience to buy into that relationship and want to root for it. And usually in any sort of love interest situation, whether it's friends to lovers or enemies to lovers or something else, there usually should be about 90 good traits about the character, the love interest character, and maybe just one or two questionable traits or things like, oh, that's that little bit of thing that that particular character needs to work on in order to redeem himself or herself to make them worthy of. And I really should have said himself, herself, or themself, or that person's self. I shouldn't have been binary there in my description. I don't know why that slipped out, but that's it. The person needs to redeem themselves over that negative trait. You know, you can't just like have a character be like really juvenile and immature and then have the main character fall in love with them, and that love interest never does anything to rectify the fact that they have this trait that's kind of juvenile and immature and annoying. So the rate that you deliver information about the love interest character, you know, start out showing what is attractive about that character. Then, you know, slip in that negative attribute, that thing that the main character doesn't like about that person. But you need to, in addition to slipping in that negative attribute, you need to create a little thesis statement, a little dissertation in your book about why these two characters are meant to be together and why it is them and no one else and why they are so important. So this is going to be about showing rather than telling. And when it comes to showing, a really good thing to look at is love languages. So different people have different ways of communicating their love. And when I say love, I don't necessarily mean romantic love. This can also apply to platonic love, friendship love, aromantic love. And when people show their love language, there's basically 5 love languages. There's giving gifts, there's like verbal affirmation, there's like spending quality time with the person, there's acts of service, and then there is like physical touch. Did I include them all? I don't know. Look it up. But you can even do a quiz online and find out what is your character's love language, right? And so a lot of problems in relationships happen because the partners don't understand the other person's love language, and there's some miscommunication happening there. So determine your character's love language and determine if on one hand, it might be that your character's fatal flaw, or the love interest fatal flaw, is that they don't understand the love language of the other person. They need to learn how to understand that love language. Another thing is that person might have a flaw that is something completely different entirely, but they have the same love language, and that is evidence for the reader of why they should belong together. So think about that. Think about also just looking at books and movies that you really appreciate and enjoy the couple. Think about tropes that you love as far as like a couple, and I shouldn't even say couple, like there can be relationships with you know, more than 2 people, and why that those people are meant to be together. And some things I'm thinking about, like when you really like, oh, I'm so rooting for those people to like work it out and fall in love and be together, or not fall in love, but just like be good friends together, is like the people who have the same kind of weird, like these characters might be completely different in other ways. Like one character could be rich, one character can be, you know, working class, one character could be extroverted, one character could be introverted. Like one could be a jock, one could be a nerd. Like they can be all different character types, but when they all have the same level of weird, like they all have the same weird interest, or they all have the same weird obsession, that's kind of adorable. So that's just one trope I'm thinking of that I love. Show how the characters see the main character. Like, so I'm talking about the love interest. Show how the love interest sees the main character, and sees them and gets them and understands them and is able to provide what the main character needs, because that's also a really great way to show that, yes, this love interest character is perfect for the main character. especially if the love interest gets the main character in a way that no one else gets the main character. Like, and you know, whenever there's a main character that like feels like, oh, they're kind of misunderstood, the main character is maybe a little bit of an outsider, and the love interest like understands them and is able to give them the thing that no one else can. That's a good clincher. You also want to really think about what the main character's needs are in a relationship and show the love interest willing to make sacrifices or adapt themselves to fulfill the needs of the main character. And still, you can still have like an independent love interest. You can have a problematic love interest. But when you show the love interest making sacrifices for the main character, that warms our hearts. That makes us go, oh, yeah, he, she, they are definitely worth it. Those are just some initial thoughts that are coming through my head. I did not plan this out. I'm just like, oh, I'll just turn on the video and talk about some things and see what comes out of my brain. I would love to hear from you guys. What are some traits, dynamics, tropes regarding love interests that you like and appreciate? Go ahead and put them in the comments, at me on Twitter. And if this is helpful content for you, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to receive notifications. You know what to do, like and share and all of that. So, and if there's other topics that you would like me to do videos on, I will be more than happy to do that. Okay? Have a good rest of your day, guys.